Hey, welcome to Breaking Bread, hosted by me, Crunk Chocolate, a show where I break verbal bread with a quote-unquote enemy. Whenever Manchester City has an upcoming match, I will be here having a conversation with a supporter of City's upcoming opponent. Shout out to all of y'all on YouTube. Please hit that thumbs up, like the video, show some love. If this is your first time watching, viewing, please subscribe to the channel. We have all sorts of fantastic content at all times of the week. So you know the vibes, or you will be learning the vibes. Come join the wave. Everybody on Twitter, hey, hi, what's up? Please like the stream, retweet, quote tweet. Let's just get all those numbers in here. Let's hang out. I appreciate all you beautiful souls. Oh, I forgot about all the people listening on the podcast form. You know, you couldn't get here live. I understand. You have your lives, but you're here now. So like, rate, review, not like, rate, review, all those good things. Man, so many different things on different platforms that we have to ask y'all to do. Oh, and I see y'all doing it. I see our rating and reviews going up. I appreciate it. Well, I see the rating going up. Leave some reviews. Say some kind words to us. I appreciate that. Like it's nice, you know. I'm out here just talking to just avoid. Are you there? Let us know. Even if your review is, hey, we're here. Thank you. We're a wonderful show for you tonight, discussing Manchester City welcoming Fulham to the Etihad, kicking it in 6th place in the Premier League. Yeah. Is it too early to talk about European football aspirations? Narrow defeat to Manchester United to start the season. However, the Cottagers have turned things around, unbeaten in their last 5 matches, including doing something City couldn't, defeating Newcastle. 3-1 victory at home, dropped the house on them, pun intended. Can Fulham trouble a reeling Manchester City? To help us learn about Fulham, my guest is from Cottage Talk. First-time guest. So Shady Gang, show some love. Give it up for Russell Goldman. Yes. How's it going, sir?
It's going great. Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to talking to you about this match and telling you a little bit about Fulham. And I look forward to the match on Saturday. It should be a very interesting match.
Yes. Naturally, I am nervous. We'll get to lineups later, but the Rodri loss, it's looming. I feel like we have a solid 3 to 5 matches where we can kind of not be like, woe is me, but be nervous or expect lineup changes or differences, just the vibes to be a little off. But I hope by that 5th game, we have things locked in and can figure some stuff out. This international break is going to make things weird or good. I don't know. I'm intrigued. Okay, well, tell us a little bit about Cottage Talk.
Sure. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself, my friend.
Yes.
I've been following Fulham. I've been a Fulham supporter since 2007. I'll tell you a little bit about the history. I was trying to find a club, and I live here outside of Boston, where the New England Revolution play, the New England Patriots play at Gillette. So a player that was on the New England Revolution decided to go to Fulham, and his name was Clint Dempsey. So I decided to follow Clint to Craven Cottage and Fulham and thought, let's see if they're a fit. So it just so happened the first season I wasn't really into it. It came in mid-season, the year prior to the season I'm going to talk about. So then in the 2007 season, that's where everything really came into fruition for me as a Fulham supporter, because Fulham were going through what is known as the Great Escape. And Clint was a part of that. But Clint brought me to the club. And again, I'll give him credit for that, but it was really the Great Escape season that it really got into my blood, because I learned a lot about a relegation battle, and they survived it. And I will tell you, a key victory to this whole Great Escape happened against Manchester City at Manchester City. If it wasn't for that victory, Fulham wouldn't have stayed in the league. So it actually started there. That's when I guess you could say the comeback the Great Escape really began with Manchester City. It was an incredible match. I remember watching it and thinking, okay, they have a chance here. And then the next season, they really took off and they had an incredible season, followed by a season in the Europa League where they got to the Europa League final. And I was spoiled at that point because I only saw things going up. And I didn't realize what was about to happen after that because it was an aging squad and they were going through an ownership change and they got relegated. And then came back up several seasons later. Then they went down again and they became a yo-yo club, had that moniker. But then after that, Marco Silva came in and basically took care of all of that. And he's been, besides Roy Hodgson, I would say it's 1 and 2 or maybe 1A and 1B, the best managers I've seen as a Fulham supporter. And he has a lot to do with the success that they're having right now. He's the reason why I feel so confident going into any match, including Man City, is because I know he is putting his team out not just to play against Man City, but to win. Will they win? Well, it's going to be difficult, but he does not set his team up for a draw. He never does that. He sets them up to win, and I really admire that. He plays on the front foot, and it's not a team that's going to come to the Etihad sitting back. They will be more defensive, and that will have more to do with Man City, but they'll be dangerous on the break, and they're always thinking to go forward. So his style is fantastic. I came off of a style that was really horrible, my friend. Scott Parker's brand of football was horrific. We call it Parker ball. It's still horrific. I feel bad for Burnley supporters. I really do, because it's a terrible brand of football. But right now, I'm enjoying it. I can tell you a lot about this season. Actually, it's been exciting so far. Like I said, 6th. We are dreaming. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a very optimistic person. I actually predicted 7th to begin the season.
Okay, let's go.
So I predicted this. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I was just looking at the team, looking at the additions, and I can certainly share my thoughts on that. I know that there was a big subtraction in João Paulinho, but I saw what we already had. And the third year of this plan of Silva has really just come together. And I'm happy to share any questions you have on it.
Yeah, we can get to the transfer window. You raided Arsenal, snatched Emil Smith Rowe, and took the shunned Reece Nelson away from them for a year with a loan. Joachim Anderson from Crystal Palace, saved Sander Berge from the grind of championship football, bringing him from Burnley. Jorge Cuenca from Villarreal, even got Ryan Sessegnon for free. Like, that's great. Really solid additions to a solid squad. If you would rate or could rate Fulham's summer window from 1 being a shite window to 10 being a perfect window, what would your rating be? And if I can add on, tell us a little bit of your thoughts on the incoming players.
Okay. So before I give you a rating, I'll just go through the incoming players. I'm glad that you mentioned Ryan Sessegnon. When he left Fulham to go to Tottenham, it really got to me because I thought that this is a player that could really be, I'm not kidding, one of the best in the Premier League. And it just hasn't worked out for him. Injuries had a part of it. I hate to say it, but I think he went to a club that just does not really take advantage of young players, doesn't help them grow and become better players. I'm glad that he's back now at Fulham, and I think he'll be a better player under Marco Silva because Marco Silva makes players better. It's as simple as that. So I'm glad that Ryan's back. He's got a second chance, and I think he will be very good this season. That was the first edition. Then you have Jorge Cuenca. We weren't expecting that one. Didn't really know much about him. He's a center back, and he's been very good so far from Villarreal, and Marco keeps talking about that he could be a surprise addition, and so far he's been good. I think the player that has changed everything for us, I heard speculation, and I had a source tell me that the player that Marco desperately wanted was Emil Smith Rowe. And he's come out and basically said that himself. This is his number one target. And to get your number one target is amazing. They paid a good amount of money for him.
Yeah.
But what has happened with him? He has changed Fulham. He has absolutely changed Fulham. The team is built around Emil Smith Rowe to the point where now you have Andres Pereira, who was your number 10, now has to go back to your number 8 because the team is now based around Smith Rowe. And he has lived up to, I believe, what Marco thought he was going to be. And I don't even think he's really where he's going to be. That's what's exciting about him. Joachim Anderson, again, a player that has changed Fulham. We had him before on loan. We needed a dominating ball-carrying center back. Nothing against Tosin, but Tosin was at one level. Joachim Anderson is at a completely different level.
Yeah.
So now we have upgrades at your center back position, which they desperately needed, and you have an upgrade at your number 10. Really, that to me has really changed Fulham. And on top of it, at the very end of the window, they added Reece Nelson. And I think Reece Nelson eventually is really going to help Fulham. But right now, he's having a hard time breaking into the starting 11 because you have Alex Iwobi on one side and you have Adama Traore having another lease on life, looking like a completely different player. Last season, he came to us, but he was injured. Now with a full preseason and another year with Marco, it's like he's a completely different player. So it's difficult for Nelson to break, but he is someone that I think is going to make a difference as well. The only issue that I almost forgot to mention Sanderberga. So Sanderberga, I think, is really going to help them as well and gives Marco another option in your central midfield. So it's been a great window. The big issue was losing Paulinho, but Fulham are now doing it in a little bit different way, and Sasa Lukic has stepped up to take that role and has played fantastic. And he's not a quote-unquote replacement for Paulinho. He's doing it in a different manner because I think Fulham are playing a little bit different without Paulinho. I'm not saying that they're better. I'm not saying that they're better without Mitrovic because it's just different. It's just different. They're a better team, if that makes any sense, my friend, because it really is like 11 players together as a unit. They were built around Mitrovic. They were completely built around Mitrovic. So now things changed when he left. I'll tell you, last season, they were built around Paulinho. Well, he's gone. Now they're building around Smith Rowe, but it's different. It's different. It's totally different because it's the players will feed off of Emil Smith Rowe. It's a completely different feel. And that's why I'm excited. But overall for the window, because they didn't get a striker, I still think they need a striker. I'm giving it a 7.5.
Okay. I mean, yeah, which isn't bad. And you did say you're an optimist. So Tosin, you get he left Man City. He's a City football group product, but we let him go for a reason. Great promise. He's a giant man, so you're hopeful. But yeah,
he left your team for a reason. We found that out.
Yep. And same thing with João Palhinha, that whole transfer situation last season that fell through. You knew he was never going to be fully locked into the season because he wanted to leave. And that is the unfortunate thing. And Fulham's one of the clubs that I root for. You guys are, I like teams who come and play you. And that's what Fulham does. You're not about the hijinks or nonsense. I mean, you get into it. You're a physical squad if you gotta be, but it's like it's never anything untoward. But I enjoy Fulham, so
that's good.
It's a picture I enjoy. Yeah.
Well, we're certainly not a Sean Dyche Everton team. I'll tell you that much. We're not that. Thank God we're not that. Nothing against Sean Dyche, but that football would really just make me nuts, to be honest with you. Even David Moyes, we're not like that. We are not like that. Marco does not play like that. And that's what's really great, my friend, is that, listen, win, lose, or draw, you're going to see Fulham come to win. And that is all I can ask as a supporter. We're not going to, quote unquote, sit back. If it looks like we're sitting back, that has more to do with the team we're playing. It really does. It has more to do with, say, if we're playing Liverpool, we're playing Man City. They're going to have the ball. There's not much Fulham could do about that. You're going to get the ball because you have the better players. It's just, what will you do when you get the ball, and how hard will you work off the ball? And you'll get that from my side. You will absolutely get that from my side.
Respect. Yeah, the squad's great, and let's keep it moving to the manager, Marco Silva. I'm a fan of the guy. Again, I like managers who come, they play their own football, and he's been there for a while, so I assume all is good with him in the office.
Yep.
What do you think of Marco Silva, and what style of football does he like to employ?
Okay. So Marco Silva, when he came to Fulham, there were some questions about it. In fact, I remember when Parker left and the names that were being mentioned, one of them was actually Cooper, who's now at Leicester City. And I wasn't totally against that, but I was looking for something, a coach with that was played a little bit more in the front foot. And then I started hearing Marco's name and I'm thinking, well, listen, he did a decent job at Everton. Obviously, they did not want him to leave Watford. So there's got to be something there. There has to be something there. And it didn't work out at Everton. And a year out of the game, Shad Khan and Tony Khan come knocking and they bring him to Fulham. And he makes the decision to manage us in the championship, which I don't think he really wanted to do, but he was sold on the project that the Khans were selling him, that he would be backed. He was backed, and then he would be backed once we got to the Premier League. And when we got to the Premier League, this was the whole thing. And I kind of got a taste of this. Believe it or not, when we played Man City, I believe it was in the FA Cup, and that was Marco's first season. We came to the Etihad, and we actually really challenged you when we were a championship side. We didn't win that match, but I remember how difficult we were against your side for you, that we were difficult on the break. And I had a feeling, say, okay, this is how I think Marco's going to do it when we get to the Premier League. He's going to set us up against the big teams, not to sit back, but to be ready to pounce. And that's basically how we are. We are an aggressive team. We like to get the ball forward quickly. Our wingers are very important to us. And then we have overlapping fullbacks. Our fullbacks are going to go up and down, my friend. They're going to go up and down. You talked to me a little bit about Jedi. And what's interesting about him is that this year it's a little bit different because we actually did a podcast talking about Jedi.
Hmm.
And someone mentioned, well, Jedi's not getting forward and doing the overlapping runs as much as he did in years past. And I noticed that too. But I don't think that's such a terrible thing, because we have on the other side what I was listening to another podcast called Chaos. You have Kenny Tete on one side, you got Traore on the other, creating chaos. On another side, you've got a Wobie who is more calm, and then you have Jedi who actually can just bomb forward, but doesn't really what I would call create chaos. He is really he's basically become a really excellent two-way fullback. And that's the biggest compliment I can give him, is that he's worked on his game. I told you I've been critical of him over the course of 3 years, but I will call it like I see it, my friend. He's improved his game. He's improved his crossing. He's improved the defensive part of his game. And what's great about this is that I'm assuming you're a U.S. men's national team fan, and I'm telling you, his game has gone up so much since Marco has become the manager of Fulham. And I think U.S. men's national team will only benefit from that, because his play has just risen tremendously. So overall, when I look at Marco Silva, what's great about him, my friend, is that he makes players better. And that's the best compliment I can give a manager.
Yeah.
Do the players get better underneath you? And that is the difference. I can't name you a player that's gotten worse this season. There have been a few players that just haven't worked out. But I'll give you a perfect example. Adama Traore
Yes.
basically did not have a great season last season. And a lot of that had to do with injuries. Now you're seeing him with a full preseason with Marco, and his game is completely taken off. There are so many players I can say that. Alex Iwobi, I can go down the list. There are so many players that have improved. Even look at Rodrigo Muniz last season with his purple patch. All these players have benefited from the coaching of Marco and his staff. So that to me is the best compliment I can give of him.
Hey, I just I love one. I love your passion, bro. You're locked in, but I feel like that's also that's that New England energy. I
Oh
love
yeah.
it.
Oh, I have it.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's fucking love it. And also it's nice. I do these so often with the Brits and shout outs to them, love them all. But you know, it's nice to be with another American, another Yank every now and then. So
Yeah.
yeah, this is great. This is great. This is great. Showing that we know ball. We talking ball.
We
Right?
absolutely do, my friend. We absolutely do.
Yes, yes. All right. Let's obviously I love Pep. He obviously has work to do with Rodri's absence, filling a very getting out of a very large shadow that is just looming over us. I know he's gonna figure it out. I really hope because he said Bernardo will no longer be on the wing, but that due to this circumstance, he's back to putting Bernardo on the wing. But I hate that because he's just an extra midfielder, and
Yep.
a right winger isn't a midfielder. They're a winger, and I know he personally wants to attack. He loves having fun. He loves going at players, but in his position, what he is asked to do, he can't do that, and it's unfortunate. And I want him to just go back there next to Kovacic or Gundo, whoever's going to be in that
Yep.
position, and just take over in the midfield. He'll be able to find the open person and make the pass that is needed, but also he can dribble out of situations and cook like he wants to. I think he could really thrive. But Pep is very big when it comes into how they're playing in practice.
Yep.
So something he's seeing from Bernardo, I guess, in training that he doesn't like it. He also needs to realize that he has to have one of the Spice Brothers on the pitch with Sabio or Doku. One of them
Yeah.
has to always be on the pitch. You can have Grealish, but we need to have either Sabio or Doku. We need to be able to. We need creators on the pitch. We have so many people who are willing to hold on to the ball and keep possession, but we need someone who has the courage, the gumption to try to make things happen.
Well,
I
I'll
do not.
give you a player, my friend, that I think will play a role in this whole Rodri thing. And it
Okay.
might surprise you because there's been some talk. I've been listening to Sirius XMFC. They've been talking a little bit about this. When he's back fit, De Bruyne might play a deeper role. Now, as he gets older, that might suit him. That might actually suit him. So I'm not saying he's going to play the role of Rodri, but I'm just saying you might see him play a little bit deeper than he normally does. Kevin De Bruyne, at one point, I thought was the best player in the world. That's how good I thought De Bruyne was about 4 or 5 years ago. I got into this argument with this friend of mine that I thought that De Bruyne was more important than I forget, it was some Arsenal player. I said, no, it's De Bruyne. De Bruyne is the better player. De Bruyne is the better player. And I just think De Bruyne is so dangerous.
Yes.
So if he's not able to play on Saturday, that makes me feel pretty good. I gotta be honest with you, because
That's fair. That's fair.
because listen, I'm also one that if he does play, so be it. I want to beat your best team, but
Oh, no.
I'm not gonna take take a little charity. I will take it. I will take it. I'm not gonna say no. I'm not gonna say no, but because I know how good these players are. I know how good Rodri is. I know how good De Bruyne is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a fan of Jack Grealish, but he's a good player. Not a fan at all. I think he's the world's worst diver, but that's just my feelings on that. And I'm sorry, I'm saying that on your show.
No, don't apologize. I
will tell you a quick Grealish story. When he was at Aston Villa, I went to the playoff final at Wembley and watched Fulham beat Aston Villa. And Jack Grealish was great, but he was diving all over the place. It was driving me crazy. So I've never forgotten that. And I would, if I'm a player, I get nowhere near him because he's going down. I would get nowhere near him. So,
yes.
But he is an extremely talented player. I will not take that away from him. He's a fantastic player.
Grealish, he does. He gets a lot of shtick. I will say he might have been a diver, but he gets kicked. He's getting.
He does. He does. That's all true. That's all true.
And people do.
They kick the crap out of him.
Yes.
I will say that.
I don't even want to stay on that. people overall in the city dumb. They aren't he's a very hot or cold person, and it is because that $100 million release clause
Yeah.
looms over him. So if it was 80 million, 60 million, I don't think people would be so critical of him. Yes, he brings good vibes, he brings energy, he holds onto the ball. He does need to be more aggressive on the ball. Pep has said it, he has said it. We know his personal dealings that has maybe hampered his spirits. I have also thought when we got Doka in last season, I figured watching him play might inspire Grealish, but it seemed to do
Yeah.
the complete opposite. It seemed to like really affect him.
Yeah.
But now we have Savio, and Mans needs to he looks he's got to be more aggressive. Uh,
Oh no. Did I lose you?
yes, that was me. That was
Okay.
embarrassing. I
Okay.
apologize. It happened.
That's okay.
So
That's okay.
we're back. But Grealish, yes, the fouls he earns very timely fouls, and
Yep.
they're key and they're needed. Uh, yes, he does need to start doing some goals. Yes, he does need to start doing some assists, but I think that we'll get there once his confidence is high, and it
Cool.
does seem to be high. And I'm expecting
Can I
to see him. Oh, go for it.
can I ask you about a player that it's funny because one, I think he's a talented young player, but I also just like saying his name, Oscar Bob. I go, Oscar Bob. I just like
Yes,
saying his name. What
yes.
about Oscar Bob?
Well, he's injured.
Okay.
So he broke his leg, broke a bone in his leg during practice
Oh,
before the first game of the season. So he will be back around December, I believe.
okay.
Everyone loves him. I saw him. I went to 2 games during the U.S. Tour they did.
Okay.
So I got to see him. He cooked in each game. He's so talented.
Very talented player.
It's one of those things. He doesn't have many tools in his arsenal, but the tools he has are deadly. And he really just dribbles at the guy, baits him, and dribbles around him. And he has so much control and knowledge of his own body because of his size and everything. He just is a demon, and it tricks people. His whole idea is to facilitate. Pep wants him to be a little more hungrier for himself. Look for him to score some goals. I think he's going to get that. Injuries are never great, but he has a really big chance to come on, basically be like a new player, forced to watch, learn a lot more. And he was already hungry, but he's going to be ravenous when he gets back. I think I'm very excited about him.
Cool.
All right, let's talk about your team. Give me a defender, a midfielder, and an attacker who you expect to have a good season this year.
Okay. So this is how I'll do it. I'll start with defender. I'm going to say the defender that has changed Fulham. I've already talked about Joachim Andersen. Joachim Andersen is a difference maker. So Joachim Andersen now allows Fulham not only to have confidence with your back four. I feel very confident back there because he's a leader back there. That was one of the things that they were missing. They were searching for that leader. Nothing against Tosin or Diop, but they were not these leaders, and they always had one mistake in them a game. That's what always made me crazy. It's Tosin, I truly believe, thought that he was better than he really was and would try things, but he just wasn't at the level of, I would say, Andersen is. Andersen is a very good center back and an incredible center back, and he allows Fulham to play the ball off from the back, and he can switch the play so quickly with his diagonals. That to me is so valuable that it allows Marco to really he wants to play the ball off from the back, to move the ball, and they're committed to it. Well, now they have a center back that really allows them to do that and not really worry about it. So that, and his defending has been great. He was fantastic he's been great the last 2 matches. He's changed the defense. He's a leader back there. So now when you go to central midfield, I'm going to do this a little bit different. I'll call the attacker a little bit different when I get there. But I will say in midfield, I'm going to talk about Sasa Lukic. Now, what's interesting about him, my friend, and I said this on another podcast last week because Nottingham Forest supporters were not talking at all about Lukic. They were focused on all these other players. I said, you have to focus on him because he's the glue. Paulinho leaves, and you're worried about where is that stability going to be from central midfield. Well, he's taken over that role. He's different. He is more of a facilitator. He's not really a number 6, but he's playing that role. He can defend and he can protect that back 4. But now we have Anderson, so it's not as a need as it was under Paulinho. So his role is different. He's looking more forward than what Paulinho would do. Paulinho wasn't the greatest of passers. This guy's a very good passer. So he moves the play and he wants to get forward as well. So he has had an incredible season. And I think he gets overlooked. And if you're looking at an attacker, I will consider Emil Smith-Rowe as your number 10 as an attacker, okay? So that's where I'm going on that. Because I could talk to you about the wingers with Adama Traore as an attacker, and then, of course, you have Iwobi, and then right now Raul Jimenez is playing very good as your striker. But the guy that makes it roll, man, is Emil Smith-Rowe. Emil Smith-Rowe has been excellent. He's just not at full fitness yet. Yeah, he hasn't played 90 minutes yet. So it's so great because I think right now he's not in top gear yet. And I cannot wait to see what happens when he gets to top gear. I've seen flashes of it, and the flashes have been tremendous. Yeah. So for me, those are the players to watch.
Emil Smith-Rowe has had some thunderous runs that have led to goals this season. And it's he's one of the players who Arsenal fans were hopeful for. They were excited about, but he could never get things figured out. Once I saw he was going to Fulham, you knew good things were going to happen.
Oh yeah,
and you saw it immediately. Honestly, it's been a really nice story that he's continued to cook, and now he has the chance to come to Manchester and take down Goliath.
Well, we'll see.
I know. But I'm talking storylines.
Right.
It's a very fun storyline.
Right. And what's great about this, I'm glad that we're talking about this, because the one thing that benefits Man City is you want someone that's coming to the Etihad that's going to play with no fear. And that's what Fulham's going to do. They might end up getting destroyed, and they really haven't this season, but they're not coming in to just settle for a point. They're going to come in and play with no fear. And that, to me, is something that you want to see. You want to see a team that's not just going to sit back and just try to defend it and go for a point. That's just not how Fulham are. It might look like that, like I mentioned to you before. It might seem like, well, they're sitting back. They're not sitting back. They just can't get the flipping ball. But they know what they're going to do once they get the ball. It's all part of Marco's plan. They're not sitting back. They're just waiting for their opportunity. And Emil Smith-Rowe is a great story. It's a great storyline. I agree with you. And I think right now with Arsenal's injury right now, they're probably kicking themselves because he would have slotted right in. But that's what happens.
Yes. And I don't ever want you to ever in our space to feel like timid, like ever always talk your shit when it comes to Fulham. Like if you think you're gonna come here and smack us, or if you don't like a player, we want that stuff because we like to believe we're a little different the way that we do things over here, but we like as much honesty. Obviously, we like to talk real football. I'm not here to like catch you and slap you on and have everyone like make fun of you and stuff on social media. Like that's not my vibes. I want great, compelling football conversations.
Sounds good, my friend. Sounds good.
And I think you're doing fantastic and like giving us great information about Fulham, like truly, because it's one of those squads. Yes, you only see them twice a year. I will watch their matches, but like you were saying last year, they were a little lost because or at least this is how I saw them. They were a little
Yep.
lost because the Paulina situation. There's only so much you can do with that, and like you said, he was a key player, and that's why the whole situation fell through because they weren't in a rush to lose a player and couldn't
No.
find a replacement in time. Like you get the situation, you don't want to like give an entire season away, but I feel like spiritually you did when you forced them to come all the way back
Well,
to
it's
yeah.
interesting that we're talking a little bit about Paulinho because I just watched the end of the Aston Villa match against Bayern Munich, and I'm going to tell you something that's going to make you laugh. Great match, right?
Yes.
So when Paulinho finally made his move, and what was great about this whole thing over the course of 2 seasons, the fact that Paulinho wanted to go at the last minute, and I'll fill you in, and I'll give you a little interesting info. So
Let's
the
go.
Paulinho, you'll enjoy this story. So the Paulinho situation at the end of the window, not this window, not this summer, but the summer prior, Fulham had just beaten. It was Tottenham in the Carabao Cup. Next day, next thing I'm hearing is that Bayern Munich are interested in Paulinho, and I'm like, there's no way this is going to happen in 2 days. There's no way. And next thing I know, I'm seeing all this stuff from the journalists that cover Bayern, the supporters, and they're basically begging Fulham to let it happen. But what I also knew is that Fulham were not going to allow him to go unless they found a replacement. That's the way it was told to Pauline.
Mm.
Even though they let him fly, even though they let him put on the shirt, he knew if they could not find a replacement in time, that the deal wasn't going to go through. And then it doesn't go through, and it actually showed some commitment of the Cons for not giving in to Paulina, to Bayern Munich, and
Sure.
standing strong.
Yeah.
He comes back. But I'll just share something interesting because I had DM'd Tony Khan, who runs AEW, and I'll share this with you because I gave him praise for the Paulina thing, but I was also, and he made it clear to me, and he made it clear to me that he was not going to let Paulina go unless they found a replacement. That he desperately wanted to go, but he wasn't going to let Paulina go unless they found a replacement, and they didn't. And they didn't. What?
Oh well, we do a wrestling podcast on our network, your favorite
Yep.
wrestling podcast.
Yep.
So I'm aware of Tony Khan. And,
Okay. And I've actually had Tony on Cottage Talk, by the way.
yo,
He's actually come on. His father came on just when they bought the club. So I've had Tony and Shahid Khan on. But what's interesting is that Tony actually shared with me that he didn't, he wasn't going to let him go unless he found a replacement. He tried, but he just couldn't find it, and that's why the deal fell through. So I thought I'd share that. But what's interesting now, then the following season, this season, they might have had a basically a handshake deal that he would go in the following summer if Bayern Munich paid what they ended up paying, and they ended up paying that. But I made a vow. I said on X, I said, listen, I said, Paulina is now at Bayern Munich, and I can tell you this right now. My favorite team is Fulham. My next favorite team is any team that plays Bayern Munich. And I backed that to this day, and I tweeted out earlier that my favorite team this week was Aston Villa because they beat Bayern Munich. And
yeah,
that's because of the whole
that world.
situation with their supporters. They were obnoxious. They were terrible. The journalists that covered Bayern Munich, they were just over the top, privileged beyond belief. And it drives me crazy. So I said my favorite team is any team that plays Bayern Munich. I'm so happy Aston Villa won. I'm sorry, I had to scratch that itch.
No, hey, be yourself, be your true. Hey, no, that John Duran goal was
insane.
That's
fantastic. He is playing out of his mind.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. I have many personalities, but when I am feeling particularly mischievous, I call myself Crunk Petulance, and so I have no problem when others come on here and they let their little petty out, like you gotta let people know, have a little fun, a little laugh. as a City fan, we're always here to laugh at United. Like if we can
Oh
laugh
yeah.
at, we
Oh
will always
please,
do
please. What
that.
a joke that team is right now. Come on. Uh,
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it. Shout out to Nick Fadley. Appreciate you, homie. Thank you for tapping in with us. This has been fantastic. Let's get to the starting 11
sure.
predictions, shall
Okay.
we?
Okay.
Um,
So my starting 11 will be Bern Leno, Kenny Tete as your right back. Your left back will be Anthony Robinson Jedi. Your center back pairing will be Calvin Bassey and Joachim Anderson. In the middle, it will be Sasa Lukic, Andreas Pereira, and Emil Smith Rowe. On the left, Alex Iwobi. On the right, it will be Adama Traore and Raul Jimenez up front. That's the starting 11. The player that actually splits the supporters for Fulham, believe it or not, is Andreas Pereira.
okay.
He's either you love him or you hate him. And
What do
Pereira was your number 10 last season, and he did not score enough goals.
you-
And we've now see the difference with Emil Smith Rowe. So there's a bunch of supporters that want him benched. I will tell you that right now. And that might surprise some people because his stats will tell you something different. But right now, Marco has him as your number 8. And I can tell you that at some point, I actually would like to see Sander Berge as your number 8 and Pereira on the bench. And that might shock some people because Pereira's been a starter, but he's a player that just splits the supporters. I kid you not. It's a weird thing, but that's my starting 11, my friend.
Yeah, and like you said, Raul Jimenez, he has been hot. He scored in a goal in the last 3 matches, which is the first time he's done that since he was back at Wolves. And I know he has been slowly coming back from a pretty serious situation, but it's good to see because he was troublesome and like in his peak before everything, like he was trouble, and so it's good to see that he appears to be back at his best form. And as a supporter, you always want to see a team's best. I obviously, and I will give respect and love to players and stuff like that.
Yep.
If it's begrudgingly, except for Arsenal, they have officially crossed the line. They have started a war. You want war? We have war. And so we're here. So it is fuck Arsenal forever. And then I'm sure you, as you know, a squad where you are, you're okay with that type of language towards Arsenal.
Sure. Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Great. Well, let's get us out of here with the final
Okay.
question of the show. How do you see the match playing out, and what is your score prediction?
Okay. So I actually did a show with a co-host. We've been talking about this for a few weeks,
Nice.
and he believes that this is Fulham's best chance to beat Man City in a very long time. Best chance, best chance. I understand that. I actually agree with him on that, but I can't predict a victory. I am going to go with a Man City victory. I'm going to say 2-1 to Man City. I think it's going to be close. I
Mhm.
do think Fulham can get a point, or they could actually win it, but I don't feel strongly enough, even with the Rodri situation, to predict a Fulham victory. I know I'm a glass mostly full supporter, but I can't go there. So I'm going to say 2-1 to Man City. I'm going 2-1, and that actually for me is respecting my club because I know that they're going to give a tough match. So I'm going to say 2-1 to Man City.
And a cup mostly full makes sense because you don't want a cup all the way full. There's going to be some spillage, and that's wasteful. You don't want to waste any. So cup mostly full. That's a realist. Appreciate
Yep.
you being a realist, Russell.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Nick, 2-0 win for City. I'm obviously okay with that. And hey, I agree with you, Russell. You're gold. This has been fantastic. I'm happy that we've connected.
Yeah.
Especially
So am
that
I.
now that I know that you're here in the US, we do a lot of different show offerings in general that are just football leaded. Like our every Thursday night we do a lit stream we bring on a guest on for like 15-20 minutes and we just talk football. If you're up for that, it starts at 7 p.m. Central Time. So like it's a later show, but you're only 15-20 minutes. We'd love to have you on to that. Spread the word of Fulham, get you out there. And yeah, plenty of other ways that we will connect. There's obviously a reverse fixture that we would love to have you on again.
Absolutely. Be happy to do it.
Yeah, I'm for my I went and I didn't even talk about my starting 11. We have Ederson.
Yep.
Vardy on the left, Walker on the right. We have Diaz and Akanji as our midfield duo, defensive duo.
Yep.
And then a midfield of Kovacic. I'm hoping it's Bernardo. And then Foden. We got Grealish and Savio on the wings and Haaland up top.
Yeah.
That would be great. And I know Stone started and he looked good and people are going to be like, what about Stones? I think Pep is trying to slowly integrate him back in. I would love to have Stones there. That would, yes, we talked about this on our podcast when we recorded on Sunday. Everyone loves what Rico is doing. If he would, it would be in midfield and replace a Bernardo. But if that happens, then Bernardo's going to have to be in the wing. That really caps us on our attacking end if we do that. And it angers me actually a lot if we do end up putting Bernardo on the wing because, again, we have Haaland up top. We should be attacking. We shouldn't be let's hold possession so the other team shouldn't score. Yes, that's great. That's a good idea. But when we have the players that we have, we should never be afraid of worst case, not like scoring less than the other team. Like worst case, we can score more than any team. And that's what I want Pep to embrace a little bit more in this. With the loss of Rodri, we are going to have to give some things away. And I hope that he embraces the fact, not that we'll go from 65-66% possession to like 60-62%, but we might score a couple more goals in a match. We might allow more than one, but last season, throughout everything, I'm a big lover of clean sheets, as you should, tradition.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But over the last season, we have, as a podcast, as a community, everybody in Shady Gang, we have accepted that clean sheets, that's the thing of the past. That's old man stuff. You gotta move on. And we have a joke, Sharpie Charlie, who's on our pod. We call it a Sharpie clean sheet.
Yep.
He'll say, well, 1 by 2. So that could be a 2-0. That could be a 3-1. So when it's just given, we're gonna give away a goal. It is. I think it's gonna be a 3-1. I would love 4 or 5. I just haven't really seen that out of them. They ran it up against Bratislava yesterday. That was great.
They did.
But that is respect to Bratislava. That is Bratislava. That is the team that we should handle. Once we get to the league, if we can start cooking against teams in the league, I would love to see that.
Okay.
Yeah. Please plug yourself, plug Cottage Talk, let people know where to find you, your things, and how to listen.
Absolutely. So you can follow me on X at Russ_Goldman. That's my personal account. You can also follow the podcast at Cottage Talk on X. You can listen to it on any podcast app. You can listen to it or watch it on YouTube as well. And I actually just recently launched about a month ago the Cottage Talk Patreon page. It is for paid members. That is something that I just started. It's been taking a little bit getting off the ground, but it's something I am extremely committed to because I do a post-match show on Sundays, and that's always going to be free. But I just decided I think it's time for me to start a Patreon page. So I did. So I do all this extra content on the Patreon page. So if anyone wants to become a paid member, please join us. But that's everything to tell you about, my friend.
Fantastic. Shout out to everybody. Shady Gang, we have our lit stream tomorrow night, every Thursday night, live on FanFest. We have three most dope, amazing guests that we bring on one at a time, and each guest varies. The first one is always going to be a City fan because,
Yeah.
vibes. We got to set the vibes correctly. And then from there, it's just other most dope people. We have the homie Scarf Boy. The last time he was on last year, he taught us different really cool ways to tie your football scarves.
I love that.
Yeah, right. We got the homie Musasek, real deep into St. Louis football.
Okay.
And then Mitch Piotr of Shirtless Plantain Show, stand up, Arsenal stand up. He's does a U.S. football soccer podcast, part
Nice.
of Shirtless Plantain Show as well. Three most dope guests. They're all good friends. Check that out. An hour before each match this weekend for Man City men and Man City women, we will be there. Well, a half hour for the match against the women's match against West Ham because it's super early in the morning. We'll be live 6:30 in the morning for the women, but we'll be doing a kickoff show talking starting 11 player matchups, some predictions. Sharpie Charlie will be on. He'll give you some betting odds, some things that he's trying to make some money off of. He will point you the right direction. Yeah, just plenty of offerings. Once again, like, retweet, follow, subscribe, thumbs up, rate, review. We appreciate you. Until then, you know the vibes. Shady Gang, Shady Gang, Shady Gang.